First Things, episode number 17.
I seem to be lost.
And so you're working around the clock so you don't take time for yourself to feel like an actual human being.
I used to feel like no matter how hard I worked, I was just spinning my wheels.
Try to be perfect and try to have everything in place at one point in time, and you can't.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to First Things, the podcast dedicated to practical productivity based on modern research. My name is Brandon Vaughn, and it's my goal to help you apply productive solutions to your life to help you live with less stress, greater passion, and amazing results. Today, we are going to talk about taking a technology fast, taking a break from technology, why you should think about doing this, maybe some tips on how you can accomplish this, and I think it's good to look at this issue, especially in terms of productivity in our lives. Because many times I believe we think that we need an extra app, we need an extra device, a gizmo. I mean, this is my philosophy for life. If I just had one more app, if I just had a different computer, if I had this program, and I'm constantly seeking those very things, constantly spending money on those things. I've actually spent an entire episode where I talk about some of the things that I actually do use in the podcast on listener feedback. But I have to be honest with you. I come back to a very real perspective of life that maybe my problem isn't that I need more technology, but maybe I need less. And this is what we want to talk about today. Now, as you are listening to this, the U.S. is taking a Thanksgiving holiday. In fact, by the time that you listen to this episode, we are probably already past that. And I've been off work for a week. So I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time and hoping that I've had a wonderful, relaxing time. In fact, I should just be returning from my first ever trip to Hawaii. And so I'm excited by that. And probably right now I'm exhausted by an incredibly long flight back that I am not looking forward to at the moment. And I'm thinking right now heavily about these matters of unplugging from technology as I plan on taking during this particular vacation as much of fasting as I can from technology and share some of the secrets that I've learned along the way. Now, I'm using this term lightly and not in any way from an academic point of view, but we are all addicted to technology in some fashion or another. I mean, after long days at work with our eyes glued to glowing computer screens, how many people, dazed people, as a matter of fact, across the country, across the world, depart office buildings with smartphones or iPods in hand, and they return home, and they trade in one device for yet another, turning on the TV or Xbox or PS3, new PS4, booting up a computer, switching on their tablets, their iPads. According to a survey of more than 1,200 American adults, over 30% of us spend more than 7 hours a day on electronic screens. That is unbelievable. 7 hours a day. 30% of us, at least, spend on electronic screens. There comes a time when we need to simply take a break from technology and unplug. And yes, even the techiest among us, and I'm raising my hand right now, I need to occasionally take a break from it. The problem with technology so many times is it comes to us and it invades every area of our life, and we don't realize that we should be treating this no differently than it was our boss or a coworker at work, in which case there are limitations and they cannot reach us 24/7. But our technology that is meant to free us in life often enslaves us, and we don't set these boundaries. A recent study by the University of California found that those who do not regularly check email during the workday are less stressed and more productive. In fact, the same study suggested certain strategies such as batching emails, that is, sending them directly to folders, and taking email vacations to help email users take a break and focus on their work. In a world that revolves around technology, it's honestly difficult to take a break from all of our devices. But if you will make an effort to do this, I think at least once a month, if not once a week, you will find yourself better off and you will find yourself less stressed and, I believe, tapping into greater potential and creativity. So maybe if addicted to technology is too strong of a phrase, we are at least very dependent on technology. I mean, imagine the following scenario. You are on the road, say going to work, and you realize that you left your cell phone at home. Now, I want you to ask a very serious question. How many minutes are you willing to drive back to get your phone? Now, I've routinely asked this of my college classes, asked them this question, and their answers range from that I wouldn't drive back to, dude, are you kidding me? I would drive an hour. And interestingly, what I have found is that the older students most often say that either they would not drive back or they would, but only if it were just a few minutes. But the younger students are more likely to immediately return home, even if it's an hour away. Now, according to the Nielsen Company, the typical teenager sends and receives more than 3,000 text messages a month while making and getting fewer than about 200 phone calls during the same 30-day period. Also, preteens are catching up with nearly 1,200 texts a month. The bottom line is that the phone is no longer a phone. We all know this new term now. It's a smartphone. And the phone, quite honestly, that Alexander Bell developed is a misnomer. Now, these days, it is used way more often as a computer and as a digital communication device with a large number of apps that we all love that connect the smartphone user to Facebook and Twitter and other services that help this person stay connected to the world. Sure, the telephone is a device to connect and to communicate, but that connection pretty much demands that both users unitask. And this generation is very uncomfortable when they're asked to unitask. They would much rather switch from task to task to one thing back to another, which is easy when you're texting or Facebooking or tweeting. But when you are talking on the phone, it is very hard to disguise that you are typing something while listening. You're bound to hear something like, hey, are you listening to me? I just asked you a question. Now, I have actually studied my own emotions when I'm using a specific technology and it stops working or it doesn't work as it is supposed to work. Just last week, I was doing some work at night and my internet started acting up and it was so slow. And I still don't know what happened. And I just basically came unglued. I've paid attention to my emotions and my reactions. And 9.9 times out of 10, I get upset, I get antsy, I get angry, I get stressed out, and I feel as though I'm at the mercy of technology that is not perfect. I am trying to calm those reactions, but they are immediate and they're screaming at me. And I honestly don't think that I'm alone. I think many people that I've talked to, when their technology is working right, they are okay, but the minute they can't connect, something goes wrong, it totally dominates their life. And I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that many of us, I think, are addicted to technology, but some researchers now suggest that there is such a thing as internet addiction, although there is some debate, quite honestly, about whether it's a true addiction, similar to gambling addiction or drug addiction. But if we talked about how many hours that we spend on the internet or using other similar technologies, such as a smartphone, then I think we are addicted in many ways. But at the same time, to bring balance to this, it's not the time spent, but often it's how you spend your time. So if you or your teenager or your spouse are shirking your family responsibilities, if you're missing work or school, if you're failing to complete work projects or school assignments, if you are ignoring friends or not spending time outdoors, then you are most likely having a problem with your technology. If you ever have a spouse or a child ask you to put away your device because you're at the table eating or you're supposed to be spending time with them, you may have a problem with technology. Sheer hours spent online do not necessarily define an addict. For example, you may even have a job where you have to spend your time online. What defines an addict is the impact that the time has on all other parts of life. So if my daughter stops coming down to dinner because she's too busy online, well, that's a problem. If my son is so engrossed in a video game that he isn't doing his schoolwork, well, that's a problem. If my spouse stays up late because she is online doing whatever, then that's a problem. If I'm so engaged with sports on my computer or doing any technological task that I miss my child's piano performance, well, that's a problem. So you should really ask yourself some honest questions. Do I have a problem with my technology? Can I put limits around my technology? Can I turn my technology off? even just for one day? Do you know anyone, for instance, who can't leave home without their cell phone and would drive back home from any distance to get that? Would you do that? If you left for work this morning and you left your smartphone at home, would you come up with some reason to go home and get it? For instance, your teenager sleep with her cell phone next to her and text in the middle of the night. It's not an internet addiction, but we are all, I believe, dependent on our technology working 24/7. And what would you do? Honestly, I would be interested to know, because I've thought about this question and I haven't always liked the answer that I've given myself. What would you do if all of a sudden a major electromagnetic pulse wiped out the internet, television, it wiped out cell phones? I mean, there's television shows out there about this very fact, and it's certainly not outside the realm of believability. Science fiction can eventually become science fact. In fact, I remember all the debacle back in the Y2K. Anyone remember that whole craziness? And I honestly, back then, did not think there was going to be any problem. I just didn't see why that would ever be an issue. But what if it had? What if all of our technology basically disappeared overnight? Could we function? Could we learn to go back to the tried methods of communication? Technology has become so entwined with college students, often their frantic lives, that in a recent survey of student technology use, they say they would be more frazzled without it. This particular poll also found that them being perpetually connected came at a cost. It was interesting because 57% of students said that life without computers and cell phones would actually make them more stressed, while only 25% said that it would be a relief. A big majority of them feel pressure to instantly answer text or voicemail messages. Most actually reported getting nervous if someone didn't immediately reply to a message, and nearly half of them worry whether messages they get are jokes. One junior in this particular study, a girl named Megan, 20 years old, said this: "If you're without it, you're disconnected. You feel like it's a lifeline." Now, I can attest to this. With my phone, I have it set on vibrate many times, and I will get messages, and I have this overwhelming urge that I must look right then. And it draws me. It's the most fascinating and alarming thing at the same time. Why do I feel this urge that I must look? And then, on top of that, if I do look, then I feel like I have to reply right away. And I'm old enough that I remember a time when that wasn't the case. If someone sent you a letter in the mail, you didn't feel like you had to reply right away. If somebody called you on the phone, you did not feel like you had to pick it up. But now our smartphones are actually working against us many times. And there's a growing body of research that shows that juggling many tasks, a topic we've talked about in terms of multitasking, but juggling many tasks, as so many people try to do in our technology era, can actually divide our attention and hurt our learning and performance. And we now understand that this is not necessarily a memory problem per se, but often it's the result of an interaction between attention and memory. And yes, there are solutions to these types of things. There are advantages that we can take. We can get more music, more art. If you're into yoga or meditation or weightlifting or whatever, if we can get those into our lives, they have been shown to help. But you don't even have to go so extravagant as that. Just taking a technology fast while spending time in the natural world may be a very effective antidote. In the 1970s, there were some environmental psychologists that began some very foundational work in the study of nature's healing effect on the mind. And their study suggested that any type of contact with nature can actually assist with recovery from mental fatigue and can help restore attention. Meaningful contact with nature can also help us reboot our brain's ability to think. It basically excites the senses. And scientists who study human perception no longer assume actually that we have only 5 senses. I'm sure you've heard that we have 5 senses: taste, touch, what's the other one? Smell, sight, and hearing. Well, you're doing that right now. You're listening to me. But many scientists now believe that we have more than 5 senses. We have senses that some say anywhere from 10 to as many as 30. For example, the sense of our awareness of our body's position in space, of where we are. Many people believe that is an extra sense that we have. We tend to block off many of our senses, though, when we're staring at a screen. And spending time in nature can literally bring us back to our senses. And like I mentioned, I'm coming back from Hawaii. And one of the reasons why I'm going there is to reset my life, to reset many things in my life and reconnect with nature, just to stare at an ocean, just to stare at a mountain, just to feel the breeze against my face, and to listen to waves crash on the ocean. And I'm telling you, there's something about that. I believe that that helps in some way. And what I meant to say is that what works for me may not work for you, but I think that there's something within nature in general. It may be watching clouds pass by for you. It may be feeling the sun against your face. It may be taking a walk outside or running outside. It could be that you go fishing or whatever the case is. I don't, again, want to give you formulas for this, but I really think that spending time in nature will bring us back to our senses. You may like camping, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really like camping, and my family doesn't really like camping all that much. I mean, to me, roughing it would be a cabin with cable TV and air conditioning and really cool kitchen area. I mean, I'm sorry for you camping people if I disappoint you with that news, but some people love it. I mean, some people love to rough it in a tent and be outside in the cold weather, and I've done that before, but I tell you, I would love to be in a cabin in the mountains. Man, I love that. And I feel very connected, and I don't just stay inside all the time. I think that there's really something to that. But unplugging the power strip doesn't always come very naturally, even for those of us who, by nature, love nature. It really requires a conscious act and a change of scenery. And if it's not in the outdoors, just any change of scenery. It takes a conscious act. Even people who are naturally outdoorsy people have problems disconnecting from their technology, and they'll bring their technology with them on their vacations. So they're sitting there by a lake or a pool or in front of a mountain, and they're Facebooking people, and they're taking pictures and posting them on Facebook. It's very much like what I mentioned in the previous podcast about the thing that annoys me so much at concerts, where people have their phones stuck up in the air the entire concert, taking pictures, really bad pictures at that, pictures that nobody would even buy, and I guarantee you most of those people won't even look at them again. So yes, I'm being a grouch, I'm being grumpy right now, but it just annoys me that I'm sitting there thinking, I paid money for this concert, I want to listen to it, I want to see these people perform, I can't even see them for everybody's arms and smartphones in the air. People just don't embrace the moment anymore, and it just isn't going to happen unless we have some catastrophic thing happen to our technology. It's going to take a conscious act on all of our parts just to say no occasionally, to actually put boundaries on these things in our life. This is one reason that conservation is basically so important. These days, unplugged places are actually getting very hard to find. Even in some parks and campgrounds, they now offer Wi-Fi, which is kind of cool. And it's also kind of sad. You know, the theory being that people just won't get outdoors if they can't tweet. And okay, you can insert any kind of bird joke there. But, you know, for sanity, what we really need are no Wi-Fi zones and phone silent sanctuaries. How great that would be. Although it would probably drive many of us, including me, crazy if we didn't have that access, especially for people who can't afford a cabin on private lands. So anyway, be thinking about the fact of whether or not you could take a break from technology. And the proof of the pudding is if you actually do it. So I'm issuing a challenge to you today. For all of my listeners who feel like First Things resonates with you, that the topics that we talk about in this podcast really resonate with you. I'm not speaking the evils of technology. If you saw my room right now, you would see recorders, you would see 2 phones, 2 iPads. I have guitar equipment, recording equipment. I have a computer, 2 monitors, speakers, keyboards. I mean, amps and all sorts. I mean, I've got technology coming out the nose. So I'm not anti-technology at all. Man, you get me talking about apps and programs and stuff like that. I will talk to you all day long about stuff like that. I'm not against it, but I'm challenging you as your friend on this show. Can you go one day this week without it? Can you turn it off? Can you not check your email? Can you not check your Facebook? Can you not tweet somebody? Can you not check anything, not even turn it on at all, and do something different, like read a book? Well, guess what? If that's on your technology, then go buy a paper book at Barnes & Noble. Help them where they don't go out of business, and go actually buy a physical book and read it for a change. Or spend time with people that you love. Get outside and do something. Do something creative, something adventurous. Go try out a new restaurant. Just do something. But can you do it without your technology? Can you literally turn it off? And I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you to try that once this week, to not let your phone or your tablet or your computer dictate your life. And I would love to know how you've done. And if you've never done this before, if maybe you've heard other people talk about taking a technology fast, but you've never done it yourself, I would love to know your results. I would love for you to leave me a comment on my discussion area site, or leave me a voicemail. I don't have to mention you on the show or mention who you are, but I would just love to know how you do. I would love to know what works for you, what didn't, what your successes were, what your failures were. And I can tell you many of the times that I have gone after something like this, I haven't always succeeded. And I have failed many times, but I'm beginning to get the hang of this, and I'm really starting to like it. And it makes me appreciate my technology more when I go back to it, because I've given myself separation from it. It's almost like anything in life. If you think about it, if you ate the same thing every day, let's say that you ate spaghetti every single day of the week, you would actually not appreciate how wonderful spaghetti is, because you get so tired of it and you get so used to it after a while. If you take a break from your technology, you might actually find that you're more productive using it, and you appreciate it more because you've given yourself some space from it. And then by coming back to it and establishing boundaries to it, you may actually find yourself a lot more productive in the use of it. So if you do accept my challenge of doing this, then let me give you some action steps for maybe some tricks to make this work in your life. And again, just try it once this week, or try it once this month, but do it. Really do it, really attempt it, and see what your success is. So here's some action steps to help out. Number 1, monitor and restrict your time spent online. Well, some of these action steps are just in general about helping you take some boundaries or establish some boundaries to your technology. Maybe not all of these will apply to taking a technology fast, but I'll point those out when we get to this. This is just generally setting boundaries on your technology to where it doesn't dominate every single part of your time. You should monitor your time spent online. You should set an alarm. Use the alarm on your smartphone or your tablet to actually restrict computer time and maybe give yourself offline breaks. I've mentioned this in the listener feedback episode, but I actually use a program on my computer called Timeout. And what this program does is it will signal me every so often, and I can choose how often, to tell me I need to take a break, look away from the computer, or get up and go do something. And many times in the past, I've got to get back into this habit. I will go out and take a walk for 10 minutes, and I would get oxygen in my lungs, and I would get outside and look at the trees and feel the wind and just take that in, and then go back in and be much more motivated. In fact, I was talking to a friend about this, and I was telling him about this, and he told me later that he was shocked. He started doing this, and he was shocked how much it helped him. It's something there. And I haven't really done any research on this per se with actual subjects, but I really feel like something is there. And you should do this. There's apps for phones, like there's one I know on the iPhone called the 30/30 app, and you can program this. In fact, I established just the other day on this. Let me see if I can pull this up and find it really quick. You can actually customize this, and so it's set up by default to do 30-minute segments. But I created something called the Power Hour. And so whenever I have a chance, whether it be during the day or the night, I've set up this Power Hour of 15-minute increments. And it's a little timer. I can hit play on this, and it will start counting down 15 minutes and then switch me to a different task. And in this, basically, I have 15 minutes to do research for this particular podcast. And then I have 15 minutes where I read a book, and then 15 minutes where I write a book, and then 15 minutes where maybe I watch some type of video training, like for some of my music gear or something like on Evernote, or, something for my own life and productivity. And you say, well, gosh, 15 minutes is nothing. That's ridiculous. You should spend like 30 minutes or an hour on these types of things. But here's what I found in my life. If I find that I'm not doing those things that are really important to me, things that I know bring value to my life, and I feel so overwhelmed, and I don't even feel like sometimes I can do 30 minutes, then I will keep reducing it down to something that I can do. So 15 minutes may seem of no significance to you, but if I can do that once this week, then that means that I have spent 15 minutes writing on a book when I would have spent nothing if I had waited for that magical 1 hour to appear that isn't appearing right now because I'm so swamped, or that magic even 30 minutes. I can spare 15 minutes and I can squeeze in an hour, and in 1 hour I've done 4 very productive, meaningful things to me. So we've got to learn to take baby steps. That's a common theme many times in these podcasts. Take baby steps. Take small steps that lead you toward your potential, lead you toward your dreams. So anyway, going back to where we were, monitoring your time spent online, setting these alarms to basically say, okay, switch and do something else. There's many programs out there. I know for the Mac, there's something called Track Time that will actually monitor how long you've spent using certain programs or apps. It even tracks your iTunes listening habits if you want to. There's another program called Rescue Time, which will monitor how you are spending or wasting time online and also help you get smart about how you browse the web, such as by highlighting inefficiencies and how you spend your day. If you are in need of something to keep occupied, well, then just read a book, preferably not on an e-reader. And I have those. I have Kindles, I have Kindle apps, I have stuff on iBooks, but there's something magical about an actual book. You know, one of those paper thingies that you might remember as a child that has a very unique feel and you hear the crisp paper turn. Try it out sometime. It actually works wonders. Number 2, turn off pop-up or push notifications. Do you really need to know the exact second that you get a message or an email? So if you don't, if your job doesn't depend on that, like in a sales position or something like that, well then turn off your Gmail or your Outlook or your email pop-ups and instead just check your email in batches. Do it intermittently throughout the day. For example, work for 45 minutes or an hour, then check your inbox. Check your email at that point, but don't check it all of the time. There's been many research done, and I've quoted it in past episodes, that say when you get one of those notifications, those email notification pop-ups, that it will distract you and interfere with your concentration so much that it may take 30 to 45 minutes for you to regain the level of concentration that you had before you were interrupted. So the simple thing, if that's really the case, and it really is, I think for most of us, the simplest thing to do is just to turn that off and then just check your email every hour or every few hours for any messages that pop up. And do the same thing for other apps that flash or bounce or ding when you get a message, like any kind of instant messaging thing or any kind of texting thing, TweetDecks, anything like that. Just turn them off. Turn them off from your phone. Turn them off from your computer. Instead of constantly having one eye on them, turn to them just occasionally to catch up on what you may have missed. It can almost certainly wait. Number 3, auto-archive emails. Spend some time organizing your email mailbox with color-coded labels, numerous filters, and send regular or daily email updates that you don't need to read to a folder and separate it out of your regular inbox. These emails are still there for you to look at later, but they will not be staring you in the face in your inbox and tempting you to read every single one. Number 4, check your phone intermittently. Again, just like your computer, instead of checking your phone every time it vibrates, just simply disable those notifications as well. Then check your phone every now and then throughout the day, reviewing your messages again in batches. Now, this is very hard, I think. It's funny in a way that these steps should be so easy to do, but I guarantee that many of the people listening to me, including myself, might find even a step like that to be very hard to turn off, like turn on airplane mode occasionally and just put your phone into sleep. Or many computers now have a do not disturb option where you can basically turn that on. In some computers, you can even turn that on for a period of time. So you can say, do not disturb me for the next hour. So don't flash up anything. Don't tell me I've got new emails. Don't give me any instant messages. Just leave me alone and let me work for 1 hour. And then after the hour, okay, turn it back on and do all this. And you can automate so much of that stuff. but I would be very interesting if I could talk to some of you who are listening to me. Can you actually do that? Will you actually turn off your phone, put it into airplane mode, or just turn off the notifications and just check it every now and then? I think it will help you quite a bit. I'll tell you honestly, where my phone gets me in the worst trouble many times is when I'm in meetings, because I'll be in a meeting and all of a sudden my phone will go off and I become obsessed with knowing what just happened and who just contacted me. And all of a sudden it distracts me from the very purpose of the meeting. And if we're more proactive, we would find that we just wouldn't be tempted by those types of things. Number 5, log out of your social networking sites. Log out of your social networking on your computer. Close any and all of the client apps. If you use something like TweetDeck or Hootsuite or anything, just turn those off in order to reduce the urge to do any kind of quick checks. If your Facebook addiction or need is unrelenting, then try something such as antisocial or something as strict Pomodoro that will help you achieve some status here. Number 6, buy a productivity app that kicks you offline. They actually do exist. There are actually several tools such as Freedom and Self-Control. Gotta love these names. Freedom and Self-Control that actually can block certain sites on your PC or Mac for a certain period of time. And the only way to break the lock while the program is running is to basically reboot the system, which we all know is pretty annoying. So these are ideas to try and to see if they'll work and bring some balance into your life. Number 7, disconnect Facebook and Twitter from your mobile device. Again, this may be a very hard thing to do, and some of you may not be able to do this yet. But if you can disconnect your social networking sites from your phone or your tablet, it would actually dissuade you from regularly checking them during the day. So these are all different steps to basically help bring some balance into your life. Let me give you one last step that will help you take a technology fast. So you've determined, okay, I'm going to take your challenge, Brandon, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. And I want you to tell me. I want you to prove me wrong. And I want you to tell me. I want you to leave me feedback on my site and tell me, I took your challenge and I did it. I was able to take one day off. I want you to tell me. And if you didn't do it, then tell me anyway, if you feel brave enough. I would love to know still. But I want to know that you took my challenge and that you accomplished this. And it's just literally a matter of making a choice. I'm just not going to take my phone with me today. I'm going to turn it off. I'm not going to even look at it today. I'm going to put it into a different room, and I'm not going to go get it until the next day. But let me give you a bit of advice that has helped me some in this. And for some people, this may actually feel like cheating a little bit, but it helps me. And if it helps me, then it could very well help you. And that is number 8, get creative with your time. So instead of doing a 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. fast, try something different like a 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. fast. Now, I have found that this can sometimes really work for me because you will actually have 24 hours away from your technology if you do this. But what can happen is you can still end up being online every day. So it's psychologically satisfying, if you will, because okay, let's say that it's Friday. And so Friday, I'm going to do every bit of my online work, and I'm going to do any bit of surfing or Facebook or tweeting or whatever up to 6 p.m. that night. And then from Friday night at 6 p.m. and then all day Saturday until 6 p.m., I'm not touching one computer, one phone, one tablet, one anything. But come 6 o'clock p.m. that Saturday night, if I want to, then I can be back online and do stuff. And then that way you feel like you've covered 2 days and you haven't really been disconnected a single full day, but you have been disconnected for a full 24 hours. For me, it just works many, many times. I do sometimes try to do a whole full day, like the entire day Saturday, from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed, just not even touch it. But if I find that I have a hard time, or there's times when life gets crazy and you just need to be online because of your work or for some reason, and you really don't feel like you can afford to take a full day off. Some of you may actually do some type of job where you have to do something every day, and therefore you can't just take the luxury of not logging in and doing something one particular day, like all day Saturday. But if you do have some flexibility with your time, well, you could do any kind of work early on Friday and then do work later on Saturday if you had to do that. And guess what? You've taken a full 24 hours away. You've taken a break from your technology. And I think this will help you tremendously. You've just done something very creative with your time. And you've allowed your time to basically be shifted and not think you have to go from 6 a.m. one day to 6 a.m. the other day. You're just going from 6 p.m. one day to 6 p.m. And I'm using 6 o'clock. But you do it and customize it according to your schedule. So again, let me break it back down for you. Will you take my challenge? Especially if you've never done it before. If any of you have done it before, I would love to know some of your feedback of what happened when you did that. But I'm speaking right now to people that have never done this before. And I'm challenging you and asking you, will you do this at least once for me? And tell me how it went. Tell me what you did. Tell me your agonies and struggles and stress from being away from your technology. And then tell me if there's anything beneficial that came from it. If you felt less stressed afterwards, if you felt more connected, and pursue, again, your passions, pursue your creativity, do something fun for a change. Reward yourself with some time off from things. And your technology is something that you could definitely take time off. So again, I challenge you, let me know how it works. Well, that wraps up this episode on taking a technology fast. I hope it's been beneficial to you. I hope to hear from some of you. I hope you'll leave me some feedback, and you can do that at firstthings.productivity.com/17 as in episode 17. Would love to hear some feedback from some of you guys. Love to hear some of your testimony, if you will, of how it worked out. Even if it was rough, I would love to know that, because I do believe this is a very beneficial thing that we all should do from time to time. And if you did struggle with it or things didn't work, I would love to hear this, because it's not necessarily experimental. I am a researcher, but I love knowing and studying people and seeing exactly what does work and what doesn't. So we'd love to hear your feedback on this. I also have voicemail on my website that some of you have used. I haven't gotten any voicemails in quite some time. You can just click on the phone when you go to my website and leave me a voicemail. I think you can only leave about 90 seconds of comments before it will probably cut you off. And I think I'm signed up with the free version, so I'm only limited to like 20 calls a month, but nobody is calling me right now, so I've got plenty of space if you would like to leave me. You can do that anywhere in the world. Just click that on your computer. Yes, use your technology for a moment and contact me and let me know how things are going. As always, you can show your support for this podcast by leaving me ratings and comments on wherever you're listening to me, whether it's Zune or BlackBerry, or for most people, it's probably going to be through iTunes. I know I say this a lot. I have a lot of people that do listen to this show, but don't necessarily have a lot of comments compared to the number of listens. And it would just mean so much to me and to future listeners of this show if you would go on and leave me some comments. Again, I don't want to tell you what to leave me as a rating. I would love, if you feel great about the show, to leave me a 5-star rating. But I don't want to ask of that. I always cringe when I hear podcasts and people say, leave me a 5-star rating. And then I'm thinking, gosh, that's just, cooking the books. I don't want to tell you that you should or shouldn't do anything. If you love this show, then I hope you would leave me a 5-star rating. But any rating would be very cool, just to leave up there and to let other people know about this show. So until next time, remember this. No one on their deathbed wished that they had spent more time in the office. And also, no one on their deathbed wished that they had spent more time surfing the internet on their smartphone or posting more Facebook messages. So today, again, I challenge you to take one day this month, or better yet, for the real brave and adventurous among my listeners, take one day this next week and simply unplug. I think your creativity will thank me for it later. Let me know how it goes. Embrace today with passion and intention, and don't die with your music still inside you.